the government actually chops your money. So that's why we say when you're working here in UK, you have to work very smart. Yes, I did a video and I was complaining bitterly that in the past 4 years that I've worked in UK, I've had £63,000 deducted from my salary.
Hi guys, I hope you're all doing well and safe. So if you're new here, my name is Diana. On my channel, I share content on how you can also successfully migrate to the UK, either to study, work or live. Recently, a lot of people have approached me that you've heard that people are kind of leaving the UK. What's going on? What's the problem? Why is it that, UK has been a dream country for most people, and then all of a sudden you hear people are leaving the UK to other countries, I've got a wonderful friend who is also a fellow YouTuber, and she's called Pauline Popomoyo. If you don't know Pauline, then I think you're missing a lot of vital information. She's been here for a while. I've also been in the system for quite a while, and we've had both work and general life experience here in the UK. So we're going to go into details, the reasons why we think some people are leaving the UK. This is not to just scare you or put you off migrating to the UK, but this is just to let you know the real information on the ground, so that at least it will be able to help you make an informed decision if UK is a dream country for you. I've got my lovely nurse. If you don't know Popo, then you are missing out on a lot. She's also a registered nurse from Zimbabwe and has been practicing in the UK for so many years. She's got a lot of experience in this UK as far as work and then general life is concerned. I've also been here for a couple of years, and we are just going to share our experience on what we think is on the ground. So if UK is your dream destination, the information in this video is not just to put you off or discourage you from coming into the UK, but it's just to give you the actual information, just for you to know the real situation on the ground, so that at least it will be able to help you make an informed decision if UK is the country that you wish to migrate to. The first reason, in my opinion, is the tax. So Popo, I remember very well you did a video on the amount of tax that has been deducted from your salary within a certain period. Was it within a year or so? That's one of the major reasons why people are leaving the UK. We don't only pay tax on our salaries. We pay tax, car insurance, council tax for houses that we live in. Almost everything is tax. So I don't know if you like to throw more light on what is making people actually not really want to stay in the UK as far as tax is concerned.
If you're looking at the tax here in UK, the government actually chops your money. So that's why we say when you're working here in UK, you have to work very smart. Yes, I did a video and I was complaining bitterly that in the past 4 years that I've worked in UK, I've had £63,000 deducted from my salary. When you're working, you have to work very smart. So every month I was just working and I wasn't being taxed because I started before the new tax year began. And my first tax, I had a deduction of about £1,200 from my salary, and I cried because I was had to think that if they're going to be deducting all this money, £1,200, of course I'd worked like a slave that month.
I know.
If they deduct 1,200 now in just a month, what about in the whole year? What about in 2 years? What about in 20 years? So you really pay a lot of tax here in the UK.
Yeah. Let me just chip something in to support the tax system here in the UK. So if you work in the NHS as a band 6 for 2 years, they increase your salary. So I noticed that my salary went up just by £200. And I noticed that the month in which I earned that salary increase, the tax that was deducted from my account was 1,021 just for that month. The previous month, my tax code was different, and the amount of money I paid as tax was around between 400 and 500. And then just in 1 month where my salary went up just by 200, the tax went up to 1,020. So I was so furious, knowing very well that the salary for nurses over here in the UK not so high, So to have 1,020 taken out of your salary, you just imagine how much you were left with. So even though you think that you've earned, you've gotten an increment in salary, the tax also increased. So it virtually amounts to nothing. So if you do bank for your hospital, it's also considered as a second employer. If you've registered with an agency, that also is considered as a third employer. So the more you register with agencies and do so many shifts, it adds up to your list of employers. So it makes them think that they assume that in a year you are likely to reach maybe this amount. So that means we have to deduct this much. That's one major reason that people are leaving the UK. You just have to bear that in mind. If you're already here or if you just started, if you're new to the system, just bear these tax deductions in mind. Another important reason why I would say people are leaving the UK or most people are considering leaving the UK is the salary. So Popo and I, we are all nurses, so we can only talk for nurses. I know there are some professions that are paying really, really well, so they may not really be affected by the salary issue. So this is just for us as nurses. So normally, if you're working for the NHS, the start of salary is 27,000, and if that's for band 5, if you get to band 6, it's around 33,000 thereabouts. If you work at least 2 years within the band 6, it gets to 35,000. Comparing the number of hours that we are working here in the UK to the number of hours that people are working in other countries, it's the same number of hours, the same number of efforts, the same 12-hour shift, but people are earning like triple of what people are earning here as nurses. So for this reason, I know a lot of people who have left the UK to US. Some have left to New Zealand, some have left to Australia, especially those who have family. They are even suffering more because to think of the fact that you have to consider accommodation if you have a family, consider if you have a car. I mean, think of all of that. So imagine all of these expenses and comparing it to the salary, you realize that it doesn't add up. So I mean, people do actually take this into consideration. I think this one of the major reasons, because I know a friend who just left UK and went to US. He's working in the theater and she's earning an average hourly salary of $61 per hour. It's the same number of hours that somebody will put in here to work in the theater for 12 hours. But imagine the salary or the hourly rates. So obviously, if it's the money, they would rather leave and then go to a country that their efforts will be rewarded in terms of salary.
Yeah, if you're looking at the salary, especially, people always think that I'm shooting down the NHS. I'm not shooting down the NHS, but the salary in the NHS is, as you can see, people are now even commenting in newspapers that they are actually going to the extent of eating patients' leftover sandwiches because they cannot afford they don't have any money to afford just a meal at the NHS canteen there. You see, because the salary is that little. And if you go and live in a place like England, England is very expensive. And for you to be able to make ends meet with that little salary, you discover that you end up living from hand to mouth, hand to mouth to borrowing because the money is not enough.
Sometimes you are also tempted to just do extra shifts just to be able to save. And considering those of us who are back home, there is always that family pressure. You need to help friends and family out there. So it kind of adds up even to your level of stress because you are trying to make ends meet. Sometimes you can't even go for holiday because you're thinking that I've not even been able to save enough out of my salary not to even think of holiday. I think in the care home, I think the start of salary is much better compared to the NHS. So I mean, that's the honest.
You have to choose wisely. The thing with UK is you can never survive on your basic salary. If you don't do extra shifts, then you struggle because the basic salary is very, very low. So which means there's no work-life balance. That's why people end up leaving the UK, because it means that half the time you are going to be going to work trying to make ends meet.
If you don't take care, you don't enjoy life at all here in the UK. So if you're old in the system, I believe you know what we are talking about and you definitely agree with that. One most important thing is, not getting the desirable job. There are people who migrate to the UK maybe as dependents. And for instance, if somebody comes as a dependent with a degree, like maybe in engineering, a degree as a banker, sometimes they are forced to do a job that they don't really like, just because it looks like the job market is not really there. There isn't a variety of job opportunities for people. So you realize that for somebody who has like a degree, he's just come to the UK as a dependent. So he's kind of forced to do a carer job when he doesn't even have that experience. So lack of, desirable jobs also make people want to leave and then go to places where they would rather do something that will be more fulfilling for them, as far as their career is concerned.
Yeah, like basically when you come here to UK, whatever qualifications that you have, they are not as much recognized. Like you cannot compare your qualification from outside with your qualification from UK. Sometimes even if you are a doctor, you are forced to start from a lower level and then climb to the top. If you come in, for example, myself, I came here I was a tutor in my country, right? But there is no way I can come here to UK and then start going to a university and start lecturing students in a university.
But
if I wanted to go and work in the NHS, With my 18 years of experience, the same person who has got 1 year experience and me with 18 years of experience, we will all start at band 5, which
Band
means
5.
they do not recognize
No.
all these whatever. They do not recognize all these qualifications that I have. You see?
Yeah, thinking of this, somebody would rather go to where their experience will be recognized, where they will get the job that they really desire. Yeah, because you even have to come and do this practical OSCE exams. So, there is no way they will start you off at the middle. You definitely have to start off as a band 5. So, and apart from the nurses, people who come here to study and wish to even stay, sometimes it's quite difficult. If you don't have the basic UK level experience, it's quite difficult to get a job that you really, really desire. So most people are kind of trying to push, themselves to areas or to countries where they can really get a fulfilling job. So that's one thing that you really need to consider if UK is a dream country for you. UK also kind of seem to be a country that you would really, really struggle, or it takes a while for you to get your settlement compared to some countries. So what I know is, if you come to the UK on a tier 2 visa, you have to work for about 5 years before you can get your settlement, which is called the indefinite leave to remain, or ILR. So after the 5 years, you have to wait for another year before you even apply for citizenship. So because of that number of years wait, you are kind of restricted in terms of work contract, number of hours. So that 5 years route to settlement is really a big deal for most people. So they'll rather go to countries where you enter with your settlement. Let me use my colleagues who migrated to the US, for instance. You go with your green card, which is more like a settlement here in the UK. But here, you are on a tier 2 work visa and you're going to be on a work visa for 5 years. After the 5 years, that is when you get your indefinite. So if you leave the system and spend more than 180 days, you might be denying the ILR when it gets to 5 years. So that also puts people off a little bit. And they'll rather go to countries where they enter with their settlements. So I think that's a turn off for most people when it comes to migrating to the UK.
Yeah, and another thing, when it comes to indefinite leave to remain, it's not like you are going to automatically waltz into your indefinite leave to remain. Another reason which deters people is the amount of money that you have to pay for the indefinite leave to remain. When it comes to indefinite leave to remain, you'll be expected, if you have 5 family members, each of you will be expected to pay at least £2,300 after living 5 years in UK. So £2,300 times 5 family members, it's a lot of money.
So imagine if you, your husband, if you have 2 kids, if you are all due to apply for ILR. So adding all of that together, if there is any amount of money you've saved here in the UK, the government takes it all back as part of just the application for ILR. So why would people go into countries where they go with their settlement, they go with their green card, they go with their permanent residency straight away, so that you don't need to pay this amount of money? So if you are not really aware of this 5-year route, this is it. It's quite difficult, So if you want to think twice, this is the time. We are giving you all the information. So another important thing is the fact that the tier 2 visa comes with a lot of restrictions. So if you're working in the UK on any type of tier 2 visa, you should know that even if you are moving from one employer to the other, you have to change the visa or apply for a new BRP to be able to work with the new employer. Most people are not really aware of this. So if you are happy to stay with your employer for that 5 years until you get your indefinite or your settlement, fine. If your circumstances change and you need to move to another city, therefore you need to move to another hospital, then bear in mind that you would have to, apply for a new visa, or let me say a new BRP all over again. So it's kind of for most people. If you enter a country where you are already entering with your settlement, then the need for changing or switching visa doesn't come in at all. But here in the UK, the system is totally different. Another restriction with the tier 2 visa is you're not even entitled to public funds. So even if you are here, you are working legally, you are paying tax, you are paying your national insurance. If you have a child here, the child does not have entitlements, even like child benefits or anything of that sort, because you yourself, as a mother or as a parent, you have not achieved or attained that indefinite leave or the citizenship status yet. So the child is not even a citizen yet, although he was born here. So it's all the status of the child will depend on you, the parents. But in some countries, the moment you are born, you are a citizen, whether your mom is a citizen or not. That's the little I know. So the child who has been born that day is a citizen of that country, no matter the status of the mom. Some people are a bit disappointed, when it comes to that aspect. So the fact that the child is not even considered a citizen, they are not entitled to child benefits. So everything has to come down from your own salary. So it can be a bit difficult, I mean, when it comes to that.
And another thing, when it comes to restrictions, what people don't like the most is the fact that you are restricted to just 20 hours per week with your second employer, whereas people want to work as much as 44 hours, 60 hours. They want to work as much as their energy takes them. But here, you're only restricted to 20 hours with the second employer. Not only that, you cannot open any other business. You cannot take up any other form of employment. Whereas if you're not on a tier 2 visa, whether I want to be a nurse and be working at the grocery shop as part-time, no one cares. But here, you have to strictly stick to the job that you, like, for example, if you came in as a nurse, you only have to stick to nursing jobs. You cannot go and work as a care assistant or as a pharmacist or you cannot go and work as whatever. You have to work as a nurse because that is what you are restricted to.
If you're already here, you know it. If you're yet to come to the UK, just bear in mind that there's a plus on the extra hours that you can do. If you work more than that, bear in mind the system will catch you some way, somehow. At the end of the 5 years, when you're going to apply for the indefinite, I know most people have been refused or denied after the 5 years because they went against the rules of working more than 20 hours per week. So if you are kind of taking on extra shifts, just be mindful of where you do those extra shifts so that it doesn't go against you in the end when you are applying for your indefinite. You wouldn't want to be disappointed after living in the country for 5 years upon all of this stress, paying this money for the application alone, and then you go and you are denied. The last one is sometimes the quality of life, even the size of the property, the size of houses, the size of rooms. So there are times when you go to people's houses and their backyard gardens even bigger than the room. So sometimes you look through people's windows, look at the size of the garden, and then look at the size of the room they are sleeping, and then you ask yourself, what's the meaning of this? When we are the room.
I never knew that in UK there are such small houses. I mean, like back home where we come from, we live in very big houses, but here I haven't seen a house which is that big. Like we live in 10-bedroom houses. Here, for you to live in a 10-bedroom house, I don't know how much money you have to pay. And the houses are just matchboxes. The houses are absolutely shocking. You get the how small they are. It's a confined space. You don't have that freedom, you know.
That freedom, that liberty. Even if you have kids or if you have family, it's even worse because they don't really have that space to move around and run around like kids would normally love to do. I mean, back home we are used to big houses, big rooms, but here the size of the room can only fit you, your body, and your suitcase. That's it. So it's even worse. It's even worse if you are living in a studio flat. Oh my goodness. So I mean, talking about all of this, I mean, it's not like we are trying to put anybody off, right? But then it's just for you to know the situation on ground. So far, I believe whatever we've discussed is actually going to help you in making your decision as to whether to come here, or if you're already here, I mean, you can either decide whether to stay or to go ahead or move to other countries. We all travel abroad for quality of life, you know, for money, and that kind of thing. So it all boils down to you, the individual, what makes meaning, I mean, to life for you. So I hope this information has been very, very helpful. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you don't know Popo, then I think you are missing a lot on this YouTube space. So please go to her channel and then subscribe. She's got every kind of juicy content that you can even think of. So please subscribe to Popo's channel and don't forget to subscribe to my channel as well. We will definitely come your way with another video. If there's anything that you agree or disagree with us on, as far as any of these points are concerned, please put it in the comment section. So we hope you've enjoyed this video and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Bye.